Smooth, Stable Mail podcast. Deep within a forgotten cave, two simple lines were etched into solid stone. Two lines that, for nearly a century, have stood as an unbreakable code. A silent message from a forgotten world that defies every expert, every linguist, and every historian. What's up, everyone, and welcome back to our journey into the forgotten corners of history. Today, we are diving deep into a fascinating enigma known as the Sitovo Inscription, a riddle carved into a Bulgarian cave that has baffled the sharpest minds for generations. By the end of this video, you'll not only understand what this inscription is, but why it continues to be one of the most persistent and infuriating puzzles in ancient history. If you're as captivated by unsolved mysteries and whispers from the past as I am, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss our next deep dive. All right? Let us truly descend into the heart of the enigma itself, the Sitovo Inscription. Imagine, if you will, the Rhodope Mountains in southern Bulgaria, a landscape of rugged peaks and deep, ancient forests. It is here, near the village of Sitovo, that a particular cavern mouth beckons, shrouded in the quiet hush of centuries. Step inside, and the air grows cooler, carrying the scent of damp earth and stone. It is on the smooth surface of the cave wall, bathed in the soft glow of a lamp, that you first encounter these perplexing marks. The Sitovo inscription isn't a grand, sprawling mural, nor is it a complex tapestry of symbols. No. Its power lies in its striking simplicity, its stark economy of form. It consists of just two lines, etched with an ancient hand into the solid rock. The first line, the longer of the two, contains 12 distinct characters. The second, shorter line holds only 3. The characters themselves are not immediately recognizable to the modern eye. They bear some resemblance to archaic Greek or Phrygian letters, perhaps even Proto-Slavic script, yet none of them fit perfectly into any known alphabet. Some are angular and sharp, others more rounded, almost fluid. They are not perfectly uniform, suggesting they were carved freehand, perhaps with a simple tool, by someone who possessed both skill and intent. Each character stands about 1 to 2 centimeters tall, a modest size that belies the enormous weight of their unyielding mystery. It was in 1928, nearly a century ago, that these enigmatic marks first came to the attention of the wider world. A team of local archaeologists, led by Alexander Piev, was exploring the region, documenting ancient sites and uncovering fragments of a forgotten past. When they stumbled upon the inscription, it must have sent a shiver down their spines. A sudden awareness that they had touched something profoundly old and utterly unknown. Initial excitement quickly gave way to profound bewilderment. What did these symbols mean? Who carved them, and why? The questions born in that moment of discovery have echoed through decades, growing louder with each unanswered attempt at translation. Unlike many other ancient scripts found across the globe, the Sitovo inscription has no Rosetta Stone, no parallel text in a known language to offer a key. It stands alone, isolated in its stony silence, a direct challenge to our understanding of the ancient world. It is a puzzle composed of very few pieces, yet those pieces refuse to interlock, refusing to reveal the image they are meant to form. Its very existence on a cave wall rather than on a monument or a scroll suggests a unique context, perhaps a ritualistic purpose, a boundary marker, or simply a fleeting thought etched into eternity. But without understanding the language, such speculation remains just that, speculation. The inscription simply is, a tangible whisper from a past that refuses to speak its name. This brings us to one of the most contentious aspects of the Sitovo inscription, its age. Pinpointing the exact period when these marks were carved is crucial, as it would immediately narrow down the potential cultures and languages that might have created them. However, dating the inscription has proven to be an astonishingly difficult, almost impossible task, plunging experts into decades of debate. When the inscription was first discovered, early theories leaned towards a very ancient origin, perhaps from the Thracian period, a powerful civilization that inhabited these lands thousands of years ago. The Thracians, known for their rich mythology and unique artistic traditions, left behind many archaeological treasures, but their written language remains largely undeciphered. The idea that Sitovo might be a remnant of their script was, and still is, a compelling one. Other researchers suggested a Roman connection, given the widespread influence of the Roman Empire throughout the Balkans, or even a medieval origin, linking it to early Slavic settlements.
The primary method for dating such an inscription is often through archaeological context. What other artifacts were found in the cave? What layers of sediments surrounded the inscription? Unfortunately, the Sitovo cave offered little in the way of definitive contextual clues. The inscription is carved directly into the rock face, and while there might have been activity around it, there weren't clear stratigraphic layers of human habitation directly associated with the carving itself that could provide an unquestionable timeline. Lacking clear archaeological context, experts turned to stylistic analysis and epigraphic comparisons. This involves comparing the individual characters of the Sitovo inscription to known scripts from various periods and cultures. If the character in Sitovo closely matches a character from a known Phrygian inscription, for example, it could suggest a temporal link. However, this method is fraught with challenges. Many ancient scripts shared similar basic forms, lines, circles, angles, and a superficial resemblance does not necessarily imply a direct connection or contemporary origin. Furthermore, what if the script was a unique, localized variation, or even a precursor to a more widely recognized alphabet? Some scholars have even suggested that the marks could be proto-writing, a very early form of communication that predates fully developed alphabets. If this were the case, the inscription could push back the known history of writing in the region by millennia, placing it alongside some of the earliest written forms known to humanity. However, without more evidence, this remains a tantalizing but unproven hypothesis. Carbon dating, a reliable method for organic materials, is useless here. We are dealing with inorganic stone. And while some advanced dating techniques for rock surfaces exist, applying them directly to such a small, delicate inscription without damaging it is often problematic and can still yield broad ranges. The lack of consensus is the defining characteristic of the dating efforts. Estimates for the Sitovo inscription span an astonishing range, from the Bronze Age to the early Middle Ages. That's a potential window of 4,000 years, a vast expanse of human history that encompasses numerous civilizations and linguistic developments. This inability to definitively place the inscription in time is one of the primary reasons it has remained such an intractable mystery, complicating every attempt at decipherment. Without knowing when it was written, how can one possibly know who wrote it or what language they spoke?
And so we arrive at the heart of the Sitovo puzzle, the linguistic battles that have raged for decades, turning the unassuming lines on a cave wall into a scholarly arena. With no clear date, no known language, and no Rosetta Stone, linguists and historians have thrown every possible theory at the inscription, hoping to find the key that unlocks its meaning. The sheer diversity of these theories is astounding, a testament to both human ingenuity and desperation when faced with an impenetrable code. Some of the earliest attempts focused on the Thracian language, As mentioned, the Thracians were the ancient inhabitants of this region, and their language is largely lost to us. The hope was that Sitovo might be one of the few surviving fragments, offering a precious glimpse into their linguistic world. Scholars painstakingly compared the Sitovo characters to the handful of known Thracian words and names, attempting to find phonetic matches or grammatical structures. However, the limited corpus of Thracian meant these efforts were largely speculative and could not be conclusively proven. As the years passed, other more exotic theories emerged. One prominent idea proposed a connection to the Phrygian language, an ancient Indo-European language spoken in Anatolia, modern-day Turkey. The argument was based on some visual similarities between certain Sitovo characters and Phrygian letters. Scholars like Vladimir I. Georgiev, a renowned Bulgarian linguist, dedicated significant effort to this hypothesis, attempting to translate the inscription as a Phrygian text. His interpretations, though widely discussed, ultimately failed to gain universal acceptance, primarily due to the limited number of characters and the tenuousness of the phonetic matches. Then came the proposals linking Sitovo to Hittite, another ancient Anatolian language, or even to the Minoan Linear A script from Crete thousands of kilometers away. Each new theory brought with it a different set of linguistic rules, a different alphabet, and a different proposed meaning for the inscription. Some attempts even ventured into the realm of Proto-Slavic, suggesting it was an early form of writing for the Slavic peoples, or even a unique, entirely local language that simply vanished from history without a trace. The problem in every case was the same: confirmation bias. When you have so few characters and no external context, it's remarkably easy to force a translation. If you assume it's Phrygian, you can often find some phonetic values that seem to fit, but another scholar, assuming it's Thracian, can find equally compelling but entirely different values. Without independent verification, such as a longer text in the same script or a bilingual inscription, these translations remain speculative at best, and often contradictory. Each attempt seemed to lead down a dead end, leaving the riddle as stubbornly intact as before. The limited number of characters in the inscription is a major hurdle. With only 15 symbols in total across both lines, it's simply not enough data to establish a consistent linguistic system, especially if the underlying language is completely unknown. Think of it like trying to decipher an entire book based on just 2 very short sentences, written in a script you've never seen before. It's an almost impossible task. The linguistic battles surrounding Sitovo highlight the limitations of epigraphy when faced with such an isolated and sparse piece of evidence. The inscription simply hasn't yielded to any of the keys that have been tried, maintaining its steadfast silence through the ages. Yet, among the many theories attempting to decipher the Sitovo inscription as a message, there is another, perhaps more unsettling possibility. What if it isn't a message at all? What if the marks on the cave wall are not the work of human hands, intentionally carving a text, but rather a trick of nature? This idea that the Sitovo inscription might be a natural phenomenon has gained traction among some geologists and even a few archaeologists. Caves are dynamic environments. Over millennia, water seeping through cracks, mineral deposits forming on surfaces, and the natural fracturing of rock can create incredibly intricate and often deceptive patterns. Calcite formations, for instance, can sometimes mimic the appearance of carved lines or even rudimentary symbols. Erosion caused by wind or water can also wear away at rock surfaces in ways that might suggest deliberate markings. Imagine a small stream constantly trickling over a particular spot, or a slight geologic fault line creating a linear fissure. Over hundreds or thousands of years, these natural processes could, theoretically, create lines that resemble the characters of the Sitovo inscription. Proponents of this theory argue that the apparent characters lack the consistent intentionality and uniformity typically found in genuine ancient scripts. They might point to slight irregularities in the lines, or the way the marks seem to follow natural contours or mineral veins in the rock. If the inscription is simply a product of geological forces, then all the linguistic battles, all the attempts at decipherment would be rendered moot. It would cease to be a riddle and become merely a fascinating example of nature's artistry. However, many scholars vehemently oppose this view. They argue that the marks, while simple, exhibit too much regularity and too clear a resemblance to known written forms to be purely accidental. The way the lines are grouped into two distinct lines of text, the consistent size of the characters, and their relatively sharp, angular appearance all suggest purposeful human intervention rather than random natural erosion. The argument often comes down to a fundamental question. Does it look too much like writing to be anything else? For those who believe it's an inscription, the idea that it's mere natural erosion feels like a convenient way to dismiss a difficult problem rather than solve it. The debate between natural phenomenon and ancient message adds yet another layer of complexity to the Sitovo inscription, demonstrating just how profoundly divided opinion remains. And so, we stand before the Sitovo inscription much as those first explorers did nearly a century ago, utterly captivated, yet completely bewildered. Despite countless hours of dedicated research, despite the application of every linguistic and archaeological tool at our disposal, the two lines etched into that Bulgarian cave wall remain an unbroken riddle. No definitive translation has ever been accepted, no consensus on its age has been reached, and even its very nature, human artifact or natural fluke, continues to be debated. The Sitovo inscription serves as a potent reminder of the vast stretches of human history that remain veiled, of the countless stories and languages that have faded into the mists of time, leaving behind only the faintest whispers. It is a symbol of the enduring power of ancient mysteries, a testament to the fact that even in our modern age, with all our technology and knowledge, some secrets are content to remain hidden, their meaning guarded by the silence of stone and the passage of millennia. The cave keeps its secrets well, and the inscription of Sitovo continues its long, silent vigil, waiting perhaps for a future generation or a new discovery to finally unlock its ancient tongue. And so, as the sun dips low over the Bulgarian peaks, casting long, dancing shadows within the cool, hushed chamber of the cave, the Sitovo inscription remains. It is more than just a series of puzzling marks on a stone wall. It is a profound echo from a time before our time, a voice that speaks without words, asking us to listen for the stories carried by the wind and carved into the very bones of the earth. It reminds us that history is not always written in clear, decipherable scripts, but often whispered in riddles, hidden in plain sight, waiting for patient hearts and curious minds to seek them out. The cave keeps its secrets well, and the inscription of Sitovo continues its long, silent vigil, waiting perhaps for a future generation or a new discovery to finally unlock its ancient tongue.
Perhaps one day, a new eye, an unforeseen discovery, or a forgotten key will finally unlock the ancient tongue of Sitovo. Or perhaps its greatest power lies precisely in its silence, in its steadfast refusal to reveal all, in its enduring capacity to inspire wonder and humility in the face of the vast, uncharted ocean of our shared human past. For now, the cave keeps its secrets well, and the inscription of Sitovo continues its long, silent vigil, a timeless sentinel guarding a truth we are yet to comprehend.
Thank you for joining us on this journey into the heart of an ancient mystery. If you found yourself captivated by the whispers of the past and the enduring power of the unknown, please consider subscribing to Whisper Veil. Your support helps us continue to uncover and share these forgotten tales with the world. And if you're ready for another expedition into history's most perplexing enigmas, be sure to explore our other videos, where countless more stories await your discovery.